Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Last weekend, Everything Everywhere All at Once was released globally. Now, a couple of weeks before that, the movie actually came out, but it wasn't released everywhere, so I didn't get a chance to see the movie, but I saw the movie last weekend. So today I'm going to share my thoughts about Everything Everywhere All at Once. Before I share my thoughts on this movie, guys, let me know down in the comments, have you ever heard of Everything Everywhere All at Once? This isn't a big blockbuster, so I wouldn't be surprised if most of you haven't heard of this movie. But this was one, it's an A24 movie, it's very niche, so yeah, most people probably haven't heard of it, but if you have heard of it, are you excited to watch it? And if you have seen it, what did you think about the movie? I'd love to know your thoughts. With that said, I'm gonna get started talking about Everything Everywhere All at Once. And going into the movie, honestly, I didn't have too many expectations. I was expecting it to be good, because it had really, really good reviews, but I've never seen an A24 movie before, so I didn't know exactly what to expect. Now, I knew that it was going to be weird. I knew it was going to be crazy. I knew it was going to be bonkers because that is really what A24 does. It makes really weird movies. So I knew that, but generally speaking, I didn't watch the trailers for the movie. I didn't know too much about it. I knew it was about a multiverse or something, but really that's all I knew about the movie. So I didn't know exactly what to expect, and I was expecting it to be different than other movies that I watch. But really, that's it. I didn't know what I was going to watch. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it. But really, when I finished watching the movie, it was weird. It was exactly as weird as I was expecting it to be, but it felt different. It felt new. It's not like something I've seen before. It's not other movies being done again, because a lot of movies now aren't different. They're the same thing. And we have seen stuff like that before. A lot of great movies I'm talking about, a lot of movies come out these days that are amazing, but we have seen stuff like that before. But this is completely new. I have never seen a movie like Everything Everywhere All at Once, because this is weird, it's wacky, it's just the kind of movie it is. We have not seen movies like this a lot. And I love the fact that that's what this movie is going for. Anyone that watches this movie and walks out of it is gonna, even if you don't like the movie, you're gonna have to admit that it's new. It's something new. It tried to do something new. And I love that about this movie. In a weird way, this is one of the best theater experiences I've ever had. Not because people were cheering or anything. Like when you watch Avengers Endgame and you watch Spider-Man No Way Home, there's gonna be people screaming in theaters, and that's really what those kinds of movies are for. But when you watch this movie, that's not what you're gonna do, because that's not the kind of movie this is. It's a lot more niche. There wasn't as much build-up going into it. But there were so many people in my theater that were just laughing out loud, because the movie is absolutely hilarious. I was laughing out loud at least 10 times in the entire movie, and I was laughing a lot. I have never laughed this much while watching a movie in a theater, because it was so funny that literally everyone in the theater were dying of laughter. I was dying of laughter, and the jokes, they're just perfectly weird. And because of the concept of the movie, everything makes so much sense. Even some jokes that wouldn't work in other movies work so well in this movie, and I thought it was really, really funny. I love the characters in the movie. The side characters make a really big impression on me, and some of them aren't as good. Some of them just feel very generic, but some of them are so good. They're just funny, they're entertaining to watch, and their interactions with our main characters is also great. I love Michelle Yeoh in the lead role. I think she does a really, really good job. And because we're following her throughout the whole movie, she has to be good. And I think she is definitely one of the best performances of the year so far as movies go, because her performance was so good that she carried the entire movie for me, and I think she did a really good job. And really, the whole movie is surrounding her and her daughter's relationship, and I thought that was done really well, especially in the first two acts. I love their relationship, and it's kind of rocky. It's not a very, it's not a nice relationship. It's not them being nice to each other the entire time. They're going back and forth, and I think that really made the entire movie enjoyable. And I think that was the central focus, their relationship and fixing that bond between that mother and daughter. And I think that really made the movie really emotional at times, and I think they did a really good job executing that in the movie. Now, in the third act, I don't think it works as well, but in the first two acts of the movie, their relationship was great, and it led to some of the most emotional moments I've seen in a movie this year. And the multiverse stuff obviously is very bonkers. It's very weird and crazy. And honestly, I know Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness is going to come out next month. I don't think it's going to be as weird as this movie was. It might be a better movie. It looks like it's going to be a better movie to me compared to this. But honestly, I don't expect it to be as crazy, as weird, and as bonkers as this movie was. Because when I was watching this, it is one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. Maybe the weirdest movie I've ever seen. Just because of how crazy it went with the multiverse stuff. And especially with the funny moments. Because really the funny moments in this movie are because of the multiverse shenanigans. And it worked so well. I honestly cannot believe how weird it was. I absolutely loved that. It also had some really creative action sequences, and it's new. It's different. We haven't seen action like this before, and that's not to say that it's like completely new. It does borrow things from other action movies and other action franchises and stuff, but like it incorporates those action scenes to the multiverse concept, and that makes everything really weird and wacky. So when you're watching the action sequences, it feels familiar, but it's completely new in another sense. So I absolutely loved the action in this movie. And even the way it's shot, the cinematography, I thought was really, really well done. And the cinematography in the rest of the movie in general was really good. I love the visual effects. I think there's some really good music in the movie as well. So throughout the entire movie, there's some really good action moments, and I had a really good time watching it. And the visual effects, even in the third act, I think the third act of the movie is probably the weakest part of the entire movie. I didn't dislike it. I just didn't like it as much as the first two acts. But really, the visual effects throughout the entire movie, even the first act, second act, and third act, all of it was really, really good. So I had a really good time with that. I mentioned the cinematography earlier, and yeah, the cinematography in this movie is great. There's some really good color grading, and the way it looks, just in general, is really, really good. And because it's a multiverse, you're gonna have different universes that look different. And I think for every single universe, the way they visualized it was really cool. I also loved some of the weird stuff that they did with the multiverse. In some of the universes, there's some really cool stuff being done. I'm gonna say some things that you're probably not gonna understand if you haven't seen the movie, but these are just jokes that are in the movie that I thought were really good. Some of them, one of them including hot dogs, one of them including stones and dialogue, but there's no actual dialogue, and the other one is involving Ratatouille. If you haven't seen the movie, you probably aren't going to understand, but if you have seen it, you're probably going to get it. I love those jokes in the movie, so I had a really good time with those, and I have never laughed this much in a movie theater. Like I said, just watching this movie, it was such a great experience. Just for the jokes alone, I had a really good time. Now, with all that being said, I do have quite a few problems with this movie, so I'm going to move into my negatives. And one of the big ones is really, I think the movie was too long. I don't think it should have been as long. The movie was only like 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it felt much longer than it actually was. I feel like the movie dragged, especially in the third act. I feel like the third act should have been much shorter because it felt very unfocused. So part of me just felt like I was just being pulled out of the movie because they were trying to do too much at once, in my opinion. The first half, and even the second act of the movie, just all of it felt contained. But as you go into the third act of the movie, it feels really weird and bonkers. But I feel like it was trying to balance so much that the emotional parts weren't as emotional in the third act as they were in the first two acts of the movie. So the payoff didn't work as well as the setup did. It felt very overwhelming with how much stuff was going on, and because there's so many different universes that they were showing at the same time, even though it was just as funny, I laughed just as much in the third act as I did in the first two. I just don't think that the emotional moments in the main story paid off as well in the third act because they were trying to do so much with all these other different storylines and side plots that weren't really focused on a main plot. It also felt very repetitive to me because they kept going back and forth with the main goal. Because the main goal of the movie, they reach it at one point, but then they go back, undo it, and then do the same thing over and over again. And they do it more than once. They don't do that just once. And because it's a multiverse, to one extent, I can understand that. But they do it so many times that it just felt more really annoying, and I felt like they were doing the same thing over and over again. So I just got pulled out of the movie, and I wasn't a big fan of the third act. I still liked it. I don't dislike the third act of the movie, and it doesn't bring the whole movie down. I just feel like if the third act was more focused, I think as a whole, the movie could have been much better. So in conclusion, overall, I really loved this movie. I had a really good time watching it. I thought it was really creative, and I liked the fact that it was going for something new, and I had a really good time because of that. I feel like we need a lot more movies like this just because of the kind of movie that it is and how weird and wacky and crazy it was. We need to see more movies like this. It's just, I feel like this movie could have been improved if they focused the third act a lot more on the main story instead of doing all these weird, wacky things, which were also good. I just feel like it would have been much better if they focused it a little bit more and shortened it a little bit too. With all that being said, I'm going to give Everything Everywhere All at Once a B+. On an entertainment scale, it's an 8.5 out of 10. I had a good time watching this movie. I definitely recommend it. Like I said, I have never laughed this much in a movie theater, and I feel like most people are going to agree with that. I feel like most people are going to laugh a lot while watching this movie, and I definitely recommend it. So if you have seen Everything Everywhere All at Once, let me know down in the comments, what did you think about it? If you haven't seen it yet, go watch it. I definitely recommend it. If you enjoyed my review, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel for more content. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.